Bothwell Village and Scarecrow Festival. Let's start with a little background on the village of Bothwell. The name itself derives from two parts. Both, meaning dwelling, like a bothy which is still used today, and ho, for river. So the meaning of the name is dwelling by the river. Well, that's our best guess at least. Life by the riverside has lots of advantages. It's pretty, there's the fishes, lots of water, power for a mill, and recreation like boats and swimming. Get your goggles. The main occupation of the residents was loom weavers. There were at least 92 weavers working there in the 19th century. A weaver is someone who makes cloth with a loom. One of the downsides of the job is how noisy it is. Many weavers ended up with hearing issues. It's said in larger operations that the weavers were great at lip reading, as that's the only way to communicate.
Sorry, what's that? Speak up!
One silly local tale is of a man who trained his dog to take the messages back and forth to his wife as his loom was a distance from his wife making the thread. This was like text messages if your phone was a cute dog. Due to the small and specialist nature of the area, little had changed until around 1870. While other areas were home to dirty, noisy and highly industrial industries in nearby Glasgow, the area was also very popular with those who made their fortunes in these places. And they would visit Bothwell for holidays as it was pleasant and clean and not polluted. It's not quite Greece, but it'll do for some peace and quiet. These Victorians were the people who built Bothwell's large sandstone villas to live in. One local building of note on Mill Street, known as Balbig, is Category B listed and designed by a partner of famed Glasgow architect Alexander Greek Thomson. Local historian Anne Watterson said the area was
an antidote to industrialisation and an oasis for the jaded industrialists.
Coal mining was a fuel of heavy industry, factories and trains. Lanarkshire, and more specifically the Dukes of Hamilton, were very rich as Lanarkshire was abundant in this natural, although polluting resource. Bothwell, however, did not see this industry until relatively late. This area would have a handful of collieries by the late 1800s. At their peak, they employed over 2,000 workers, who were housed in their own accommodations called miners' rows. These would likely be new people to the area. In rows, rent, how much you paid to live there, for lodging was deduced from their wages, and it was also common to force your workers to use a special shop for food and necessities which was run by the mine owner, which often meant that the mine owners could exploit their workers numerous times over. Not very fair. There was also a special underground path under Uddingston Road, which took miners who lived in Castle Square and the Waverley to their workplace. Some historians say that this was so that the well-off locals didn't need to see the workers going to and from the mines. And I dare say this was also more efficient. The mine managers were housed in considerably nicer accommodation. The mines, however, and an influx of workers had many benefits, such as the area gaining 2 railway stations, a tram link, although not directly, with Glasgow, a public hall, a library, and a new primary school, all things that the area didn't have. Okay, so scarecrows. What about these scarecrows? We want scarecrows! Well, when I started researching this, I was hoping for a long history, pagan history, based on ancient practices handed down generation to generation. But it started in 2011. It was designed as an event which would promote the village, get visitors to the town, make people smile, all the while supporting local businesses and charities, inspired by other areas who also had scarecrow festivals across the country and the whole world. From America, Canada and over the UK. Most of these go back about 20 years or so and take place in the summer and autumn. Each year, as many as 400 excellent scarecrows are created and displayed all over the area. Many people visit from far and wide to take pictures and pick their favourites. There's also lots of other events put on specially for all the visitors, like concerts and markets, competitions, exhibitions and much, much more. Which is a pretty big deal for a smallish village. So it turns out the history of scarecrows in general is actually quite cool and quite dark. Their history is said to go back to ancient Greece, where effigies of gods were used to protect fields. I wonder if that worked. By the 1300s, Farmers would have employed young kids to run about their fields and throw stones at birds to keep them away from newly planted seeds and crops. However, when the Black Death or bubonic plague of 1348 wiped out around half of the population of what is now Great Britain, an alternative sought, as there literally wasn't enough children left. Yikes. So, the idea of dressing up mannequins or effigies that look like people was developed. In old clothes and with carved faces, life was far more rural and greener in these times. A failed crop would greatly affect the food supply and income of a community for a whole year. Birds and wildlife were far more abundant than today. Both practices continued until the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s put children to work in the factories as it was better paid and more abundant work. I think I would prefer the field life though, even if it was raining. The big question though, do scarecrows actually work? Consensus seems to be that certain types of birds are more bothered than others, and they are effective for a few days at least, unless they are changed or moved quite often. Realistic faces work well, and bright colours. The Bothwell Scarecrow Festival is now a major event with thousands visiting and lots of money raised for charity. And it's the top hit on Google when you search for Scarecrow Festival. Here's some local comments which give you an idea of what goes on.
Aye, I love the hustle and bustle of the farmer's market with its delicious produce and treats, and I don't feel as guilty eating cakes when they're made by local people. The whole vibe of the place is electric on the day.
My favourite memory was when Renita Boyle came to the library with her crazy stories, songs and craft sessions. She's so silly and fun and we couldn't stop laughing long enough to make the crafts. Older kids and the adults can look at the old-fashioned displays.
Oh, we love travelling around the town and finding all the different scarecrows. We got loads of selfies. There's one that's really great every year, and it's usually Disney-related and flying.
It's a great excuse to get to engage with lots of different parts of the community. The community gardens, the cricket club put on live music, lots of competitions at the primary school, and then watching the parade on the Sunday.